It is the semi-finals of the 2024 Illuminating Rounds VASL tournament, and I am drawn to play Dave Ramsey. In this tournament, designers have been asked to select a scenario for play, and this time Pete Schelling has chosen this little puzzle for us to solve. I must admit to being a little surprised that Pete did not choose a meatier title, but this one is a welcome shift in weight from the last two scenarios in the competition, which have both been pretty heavy. We chose sides randomly, and I got the defending Germans. Having looked at this scenario in advance, I really had no preference, and so, with sides decided by the toss of a coin, I set about the defence of this little hamlet, with its small occupying force and 5 very vulnerable trucks. It feels like a very tight scenario, perhaps more so for the partisans, who have it all to do against Germans in stone buildings, trucks in the open, and then quitting the scene. My first decision was where to place the trucks. I quickly realised that they could be bunched at the northern end of the board, as far away from the entry areas for the attacking partisans as possible, perhaps buying some time, which was a critical element for the partisan player to manage. This positioning kept most of the trucks away from danger from turn 1 partisans coming from the south, but exposed them to attacks from the east. I was okay with this, as the approaches from the east were far less safe, being woods and brush rather than buildings, and gave few clear shots until the partisans were at point-blank range. In fact, the partisans were likely to be firing at +1 to +3 on all targets in that area thanks to brush intervening the woods and wooden buildings. I identified B3 as a key hex in this setup, along with C3 and D2, as the partisans would likely be forced through here by the terrain and the disposition of the trucks. One of my other concerns was an end run on the western side of the board. The Germans don't have much to go round and need to preserve their force while trying to whittle down the partisans. With all this in mind, I planned to place a deterrent for the western flanking move, establish a force and a fallback defence in the southern part of the board protected by stone buildings, and put some key assets to cover the woods and brush approaches from the east. In particular, the 9 neg 1 leader was placed in D3 to provide some -1 shots into the 3 brush hexes mentioned before. Dave set up his partisans to enter on the east and southeast. I was relieved to see no western flanking move being planned and felt as prepared as I could be for his approach. In defensive first fire, the MMG and squad in F6 opened up with a rate of fire, which broke the leading partisans, and then in the defensive fire phase eliminated his dummy counters in overlay H4. A good start. The partisans advanced forward under concealment to end their player turn without further event. The Germans did their best to skulk and begin a limited withdrawal to the north, while leaving a small blocking force to the south to buy some precious time. The half squad, acting as a deterrent in the southwest, ran to take up position in the north and provide a very final line of defence for the trucks. The Slavs declined to prep fire, moving everywhere, including a squad to uncover the Germans defending the church. All along the line, Germans opened up in first fire with varying success. The following defensive fire phase saw mixed results in the southern sector, with a heated battle result and a break against the stack in G4. Advances and no less than 4 close combats ensued. Again, some mixed results, with a melee for B4, the partisans ambushing and infiltrating in D3, a German win in F4, and finally a partisan win in overlay G5. The situation now called for the Germans to dig deep, but it was their prep fire next, and it was time to bring firepower to bear on 3 squads and a leader in B3, in the form of the 9-1 leader and some friends. One morale check saw the partisan leader casualty reduce and a squad break. A follow-up rate of fire shot from the light machine gun pinned the remaining squads. Then an attack from the units in D4 broke the remaining squads, a critical moment in the game as it enabled a German half squad to later run forward and force a surrender that was declined with no quarter being declared, eliminating 2.5 squads. Dave's player morale faltered for a moment here, but he fought on. His defensive fire phase proved unsuccessful, and with the new close combat in E4 going the German way, things looked very tough for the partisans. With time running against him, Dave moved to close with the trucks. He desperately needed some VP at this point, but his main stack failed its leader-led task check to perform an infantry overrun into F4, and the units that moved into B3 failed their morale checks from the half squad fire from A4, with much more left to fire. Dave called it at this point as it became clear the VC was out of reach. With so few CVP, no trucks harmed, and few units left to get off the board. This was a swift and decisive German win, and it has to be said that not much went right for the partisans, whereas things went much to plan for the Germans. Their dice were better for sure, or at least when it mattered. As I forecast, Hex B3 was a key point for the attack, and thus for the defence also. Having the better of the close combat results made a big difference too. Once the momentum began to swing to the Germans, it proved impossible to budge. Thanks to Dave for being a great opponent, and Pete for supporting the channel and selecting this challenging scenario.